meeting.
Good morning. I don't see where the recording is starting, but I'm going to presume that it has. It started. Okay, good morning. Welcome to the Hunter Mill Transportation Advisory Committee. This is the first time that we have done this by teams. So there may be some new people joining us that will take a while to learn this. I do want to remind you before I pass this over to Walter for a minute, please make sure you mute yourself. I want everybody muted unless called upon or you're making the presentation. John Mooney, I don't see that you're muted. I don't hear sounds from you, but I don't see the mute button for you. So let's try to do that. Walter, you wanted to we'd love to hear from you. I know that you won't be able to stay the entire meeting, so.
Yeah, thank you very much, Catherine. Yeah, I appreciate it. And thanks also for everybody's patience as we work through another one of these remote platforms. Fingers crossed everything goes well today technically, but I do look forward to hearing a number of excellent, important presentations and discussions. And Catherine, I think you're right. I expect we'll probably have some more folks be joining as we move forward. So turn it back to you. Thank you.
Okay, one quick housekeeping question. Someone will be can the host mute the people when we're using Teams, or are we always calling on our guests to mute themselves?
Yes, in fact, we learned in a night meeting the other night, there's both a mute and a microphone enable disable. So if you're having trouble unmuting somebody, there's also a microphone enable disable. So it's both unmute and enable.
Oh, okay.
And it's the host that has that control.
Okay. All righty.
We can keep an eye on it. This is Lisa. We can keep an eye on it. I can go through and just check and make sure people are either muted or unmuted as needed.
Okay, terrific. Thanks so much, Lisa. I appreciate it. So we have a packed tight agenda this morning, and a couple of our speakers will need to bow out after their presentation. We will have an opportunity to ask questions. The agenda has been shifted. Lisa, or does someone want to put the revised agenda up on the screen for a minute? And I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Steve. We're going to start with Steve Welch at VDOT.
All right, good morning, everyone. Steve Welch from VDOT. I'm Assistant Director for Transportation and Land Use in Fairfax County. You know me, I think I've seen many of you before. I was asked to just kind of go over quickly. We've kicked off our paving season, and I'm going to open up my share tray. Give me one moment to screen share here. And did a presentation on this the other night, but we're getting ready here to, let's see, is it sharing yet? Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so just real quickly, I just wanted to point out this year's our budget is $107 million, very comparable to the last 4 years. Something that's a little bit different is that we're not putting any money on the interstates this year. We're putting approximately 1/4 of it on primaries and 3/4 of it on the secondaries. And that's in part has to do with the ratings and where we stand with the sufficiency ratings. So we're doing the best we can to try to continue to catch up on secondary roads and particularly the neighborhood roads. The next thing I wanted to bring up on the chart for everyone very quickly, there's two GIS-based navigation maps that you can use. This first one is, both can be found up here on virginiaroads.org. This is our pavement condition map, and as you can see, quite intense. The pavement condition ratings go from excellent all the way down through very poor, starting blue up top, red down below. You can zoom in and see what the conditions are through 2021 that our engineers have rated. Obviously a lot of red out there, but a lot of blue, yellow, green. And one thing I've pointed out before is we do not repave roads in the cities and towns or private areas. So that's why you will see some empty spots. But as you can see, we have over 14. One thing about this is we have in Fairfax County over 14,000 lane miles of roadways to repave. So this is our pavement condition map. And again, you can kind of toggle around and move on it. And some people find this very useful and helpful to kind of understand where things are. The next one I wanted to show you was our paving status map. This is what we are going to be doing this year. So this is the active map that shows where we're paving roads in Northern Virginia this year. And because of just, I can focus, zoom in and here in this area, I'll move up into the Hunter Mill area mostly. You can see that as you move around, a couple things nice about the map is, first of all, roads that are going to be worked on or in red or scheduled, those that are green are in progress, and those that'll turn blue eventually are those that are completed. Over here, you can see that we've started work anyway on Centerville Road, I guess it is. And then as I move over back towards this area in Hunter Mill, we go to a couple different neighborhoods, but one of the other aspects of this map that's very useful is you can click on a portion of it and it'll pop up the name of the VDOT project manager, his or her phone number, his or her email, and the contractor that's going to be doing the job. And the contracts, when they're released, each contractor is given a window of time, I'll say 4 months, to do 2 or 3 or 4 different areas that he or she's been awarded the work. So we don't have the start and end dates on here, but you can email the contractor if you're interested in knowing when they think they might start, and continue to stay in contact with them to, if you have any questions, including after they've left. Sometimes we find that there is a question when one piece of equipment is going to be removed because it's still sitting there or something like that. So it's a very useful map. We've been waiting for this to come out, and came out a week and a half ago or so. But that's kind of just a quick, brief overview on the VDOT pavement condition map and the schedule for this year. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. So the other 2 items that I was asked to speak to is that one of them is with respect to the school zone projects. One of them that we are working on and is at Upper McNair Elementary School. We're putting in a high visibility crosswalk in front of the school, along with a ADA compliant ramp, and doing some reconfiguration of the parking, on-street parking in that area. We do have to remove some parking on both sides of where the high visibility crosswalk is for sight line distances for both the pedestrian to see the cars and the cars to see the pedestrians. But where there was opportunity further north, we're going to repurpose currently hashed out areas along Fox Mill on the northbound side, and not only replace that on-street parking, we're actually going to be able to increase the number of cars that are allowed to park on the street in that area. So that's a project that I just found out yesterday or the day before that they are going to get started on the week of the May 9th. So we're about 3.5 weeks out. It'll probably take them a week and a half, 2 weeks to do the work, because there is some eradication, a lot of pavement markings to do, signs to install for the pedestrians, and parking signs to remove and other ones to replace. I know that, I guess the other one that I was asked to speak to was the Pinecrest and Glade intersection. I don't have the visual for you. Sorry, I think I had it last time, but we have done some work out there that we planned on. Part of that was that we installed 2 high visibility crosswalks at the intersection. Where that has been completed. There's also a stub out where several cars park, and some of them become kind of are parked there for quite a long time and get left there, and people that are walking through that area have to navigate around the cars and difficult to see and all that. So our plan is, and we've already started this, when they painted the 2 high-vis crosswalks, they put in the white edge line through across the stub out. And for temporary purposes, we were going to put in flex posts along what would be normally a curb and gutter line across there, and that will, and as well as no parking signs. And there also on that portion of Glade, we're going to be reworking to add a few more parking spaces as well, both kind of east and west sides of that area, again to offset the, I'll call it, loss of a few spaces of people that are parking in the stub out, but also just to help add some parking spaces for the people that live in those communities. That's what I have for today. I don't know if there are any questions for now, but I won't be able to stay around but for a few more minutes, but I appreciate your time, and thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Steve. We'll do 2 more presentations, and then before you leave, we'll open up questions. With the changed agenda that was sent out, we added the opportunity for questions mid-meeting.
Right.
Okay.
Will you be able to stay that long, Steve? Is that
Yeah,
okay?
I can stay till about 8:45. That's better.
Okay, great, perfect.
Okay, great, terrific. All right, thank you. So our next speaker is Marcia. You here somewhere? Good morning, Marcia.
You're muted.
You're muted, Marcia. You're muted. Marcia. Marcia, you're muted. Thank you. You need to start over.
I realized I was having trouble, and then the cat jumped in my lap. Amazing. I want to thank you for changing the schedule a little bit where we could have this very brief conversation. The Airports Authority Board of Directors meeting is starting any minute now, and so that's the reason for my having to bail out a little bit, because I'm sure some significant issues are going to come up there this morning. As of this date, there is no change in any of the dates that have been thrown out. In fact, there are no dates really out there. We're continuing to work every day with WMATA to try to make sure that everything we're doing every day is to help us get on the path toward where we can turn it over and where they can take charge of the project and move closer to informing the public with opening dates. We just don't have anything new on that at this point. Encouraging thing, though, is there's still several groups of WMATA folks and MY folks who are working on logistics, et cetera, for an opening date. So we do know there's one on the horizon out there somewhere. I think since we've talked, you've heard about the issues of the orange boots, are the things that look like hair dryers. They and WMATA was concerned that they needed to be replaced. That replacement has started this week. We were able to get a jump on replacing those devices, but I need to tell you that what was installed there was a choice that was made by the contractor from approved devices to be used for that part. And only in recent months have we learned that WMATA really prefers another one at this point. So we are changing them out, and WMATA has been able to give us a jump start by sharing some of those parts, but we are working on that. And the other issue that they brought up at their last meeting that they thought could be a holdup was the lack of occupancy permits in facilities. The only occupancy permits that have not been issued are the ones that are in the rail, or some in the rail yard. And the reason they haven't been approved, and they get approved by MY Engineering rather than anyone else at this point, because they're airport property, is that the work isn't finished to the point actually where they can be, it takes you almost, the work that continues right up till acceptance has to be done before the actual occupancy permit for those support buildings are issued. But we think we're on track with that, just as soon as we can get that the yard contractor to, I guess, to speed up the work he's doing there. All I can say is we're all working as hard as we possibly can to get this to the point where WMATA can take it over and begin their very final testing, and then come up and then set an opening date. I'll be happy to answer any questions. I can hang around for a while. In my background, I'm going to have the WMATA, the MWA board meeting. Thank you. Oh, I would encourage you that next week the WMATA board meets, and I'm sure we're going to be on that agenda too. So follow that to see what comes up then.
Okay,
Thank
thank you,
you.
Marcia. Marcia, if you have another meeting to go to, I'm going to deviate from the agenda slightly and see if anyone has any questions for Marcia. This is your opportunity for Marcia so that she can step off for her board meeting. Are there any questions? Any hands up?
Sorry, I just joined. Who's leaving?
Marcia is leaving. I'm not sure who's speaking right now.
Hi, this is
That's
Rob
Mike.
Whitfield. Who's Marcia?
Marsh.
Marcia is Marcia. Tell him who you are, and you missed your report, but she's talking about the Metro Rail. Go ahead, Marcia.
Oh, Marcia McAllister.
Yes, Rob. How are you? I tell you what, I need to swing off because our board of directors are meeting right now, and I had quickly reviewed the fact that there's not anything new on dates, that the work to replace the orange boots is taking place, and we're working on getting the occupancy permits, and these are not for the system itself. These are in the rail yard, and those are permits that will be issued before acceptance. And you can give me a call and ask me some questions.
Okay, all right. So any opening dates set?
No, not yet.
Okay.
We're not talking dates.
Okay. Catherine, I'm sorry. I'm down in Fredericksburg on my way to this CTB meeting. So.
Okay, thank you, Rob. So Rob, the agenda has shifted a little bit. We were only taking questions for Marcia so that she could step off the meeting. So if you could mic yourself off for until we get through the next speaker, I'd appreciate it. Just a reminder, anybody participating, don't forget that you need your mic off and on. Otherwise, we hear all your road noise.
Okay. Unfortunately, I dialed the phone number and it doesn't have a mic for me to. So I'll just
okay.
I think I might be able to
I can
mute
do
you
it.
here.
Catherine, I can
Okay,
do it.
I'm just.
Okay.
Oops.
I think Lisa has the opportunity to mute you for a minute. That being said, since we're going off agenda for that, so that's for Steve's, I would like to give people an opportunity to ask Steve with VDOT any questions they might have at this point before we go to Fairfax County DOT. Does anybody have questions for Steve at VDOT?
Yes, Steve, this is Mike Martin. I had a question on your part in there with Pinecrest and Glade. There's a trail that comes right out at that, shall we say, stub out. Is that going to be, I heard you mark that you're going to mark out some of the areas where the cars are now parking, but is that going to be marked so that people can be directed to get onto that trail?
So the entire area of that stub out is paved. I don't recall that we were going to put any delineation, if you will, across there, but I think that's in part because we were going to have some follow up with the county about what they would like to do with the stub out itself. The stub out itself is actually a remnant of a dedicated public lands property that actually is probably one that can be abandoned, and we could put curb and gutter across where we're currently going to put flex posts. And then I think Supervisor Alcorn's office talking about doing something with that trail and connectivity in that area in there in the future.
Okay, and Steve, is there a meeting coming up, or a meeting, or a public information meeting on this project?
Next month.
On which? I'm sorry.
Pinecrest.
No. Oh, yeah.
I thought I saw one on the,
There
usually
is
we
a-
try to do announcements, so.
Yeah, there's a Fox Mill Pinecrest public information meeting on the intersection improvement project for the signal. I don't know the date off the top of my head, but it is coming up. So it has been announced.
Okay, good.
The
Thank you.
design is progressing well. We're going through the normal processes where we're continuing to develop the design. And so this is one of our public information meetings, if not a design public hearing. So that, I believe it's next month.
Okay, great. Thanks, Steve. Any other questions for Stephen before he needs to bow out for his next meeting?
I see Mark had a question.
There are 3 hands raised, Catherine. Rick Hamilton, Mark Malcolm, and then Adam Rubenstein.
I will let you.
So,
Oh, I
Rick,
see. Now I can see it. I have so much morning glare coming in. Okay, Rick, did you have your hand up first?
I think so. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Just a quick shout out. Sidewalks are being repaired, continuing in Polo Fields, and paving has started on all but one of our streets, which is what we expected to happen. So we're thrilled about that, and a particular shout out to Shamali for her help. One of our residents in Polo Fields is having an outdoor wedding on Sunday, and she was concerned that the delivery people weren't going to be able to get her stuff in there for the wedding. Shamali helped, and as did Steve, and all that is worked out. So the wedding will go on Sunday as planned. Thanks.
and that was really, Steve, thank you for doing that. You were the one who got everything done. So kudos to you.
Welcome.
Great.
Thanks. Glad I could do help.
Okay, do I see Tom's hand up? Tom, there is a hand up for Tom.
Yes, the hand was up. Just the Fox Mill Pinecrest public hearing is going to be on May 18th.
Yep.
May 18th. And so far, I don't have the link yet for the virtual meeting, but I'm sure it will be out well before the 18th.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thanks so much
Tom.
thank you for adding that.
Sure.
Adam, I think you had a hand up.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, Adam.
How are you? So I know Shamali's been in touch with your office, Steve. I had initially got in touch with you guys, and I know then Shamali stepped in to try to help out. Just trying to figure out what's, I know that, so basically it's the west side of Reston Parkway, the sidewalk on the west side between Glade Drive going north towards Sunrise Valley. I guess there's an issue of trying to figure out who has jurisdiction of, because no one's been maintaining that sidewalk. And I know when I reached out to RA, they said it was VDOT, and you guys were looking into that. Do you have any updates or as to what's going on exactly with that sidewalk? Because like I said, it's not been maintained at all for as long as I've lived here.
Yeah, I saw that come through where our permits department and legal department are just trying to look it up and looking back through the old land records. So we should have some information on that soon. We're just not sure at the moment, but as soon as we find out if it's ours, we'll take care of it and inspect it. If it's not, then we'll reach out to that entity.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, and Mark Malcolm, you have your hand up, I believe.
Yes, thank you. Steve, I appreciate everything that VDOT has been doing, especially in our area, and also everyone involved with HMTech. I'd asked you on April 18th at that meeting, and also by email, if you could address VDOT service request 1539292 at Sunrise Valley near Hitchcock Court Drive, regarding guardrail removed because of continuing accidents at that curve to the left.
Yes, so appreciate it, Mark. I know I said I'd follow up with you and we were going to see each other today. So Tom Bishani and I have talked with our traffic engineering groups, and There's actually a coordination meeting today that's a monthly coordination meeting, and I've asked for it to be put on the agenda so that our two agencies can discuss it. It was planned to do a field walk out there and kind of get a better understanding of what's happened. I know that some chevron signs were knocked out as well, and there's maybe 2 remaining. I know initially, our thought was we're going to certainly replace the chevron signs even with larger ones, but we want to make sure our traffic engineers are going to go out and field walk it and have a better understanding of sight lines and what's going on and what could be done. So they're going to be discussing that today, and might have some more idea of where it's headed after today.
Thank you again. I know that y'all had met previously and had discussed the field walk from the prior HMTAC meeting when you said essentially the same. Anyway, or Tom had. Thank you very much. It's a continuing issue.
Yeah, understand.
Take care.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
We're going to, I don't see any other hands up, so we're going to go back into the agenda with Chris. Are you ready to start with the Fairfax County DOT projects briefing?
I am.
Good morning.
Let me share my screen. Good morning, everybody. I am Chris Wells. I'm the Active Transportation Program Manager for Fairfax County. The first thing we have on the agenda is the monthly status report. So hopefully you can see my screen. I'll just go through some highlights quickly. The very first line is probably the biggest highlight. It's the biggest capital project outside of the Silver Line we've got in Hunter Mill District. That's the new bridge construction for the W&OD Trail over Wheelie Avenue. We are at a major milestone for that. We've received our construction bids, and we're reviewing those construction bids. And that's, of course, the last step before we authorize construction. So construction should be awarded this summer, late this summer. And of course, it's a big project, and it'll take a couple years to bring to completion. But that is, after all the time and effort that has been spent on this project, that is a major milestone. The second project listed just below that is the Wolf Trap Elementary School Safe Routes to School. You folks had inquired yesterday about that. I can decode our nomenclature here, our columns. The bottom line is those last couple columns are in construction award, and estimated construction date. That is really the time frame where construction would be anticipated. So that's for 2023. I did reach out to my design staff yesterday, and I haven't heard back. But it looks to me like we're planning that for the summer. Typically, we do try and plan construction around an elementary school entrance or any school entrance to be in the summer, so we don't interfere with school operations. You'd also ask about the temporary flexi posts. I reached out yesterday to VDOT, but I didn't hear back on that yet. So that's still, my understanding is those still should be coming to delineate the median until the actual concrete is constructed. So then I will go ahead and scroll down, and we can ask questions about any capital project. But on page 4, top of page 4 is Clark's Crossing at Hawthorne Ridge Court, and that is the last segment of what was originally Walk Along Beulah. The idea of creating a continuing pedestrian bicycle network out from the town of Vienna out to the Meadowlark Gardens, and then this connection takes us down to the WOND. So this is 95% complete at this time. So hopefully is actually even maybe usable as we speak. Lower on that page is South Lakes Walkway. Those are a few different sections between Greenkeepers and Sunrise Valley. That was completed last year, but I got a chance to see it in the past few weeks for the first time. So that's nice to see. Of course, as you know, Reston was built with lots of adjacent to the roadway, and along South Lakes, of course, you have your schools at Soapstone and then down at the high school. So there's definitely a need for east-west accessibility along South Lake. So that was good for me to see, completed project of ours. And then just below that, Sunrise Valley at Hitchcock, speaking of the Polo Fields area, that's across the street on the north side of Sunrise Valley, but that is also substantially completed as of this month. So that's the highlights from the capital projects. I do have a separate presentation on another project, the Sunrise Valley Cycle Tracks, but if anybody has any questions on any general projects, I guess I would go ahead and take those now. Okay,
I don't see any hands up.
Not hearing or seeing anything. I will share screen again and go over the Sunrise Valley Cycle Track. So this, speaking of big capital projects, this is a big capital project. So Sunrise Valley, as you know, has been a car-dominated street. We've completed sidewalks on the south side of Sunrise Valley, which never had sidewalks before, and we've improved the shared use path over by the Wheeling Metro, and we have another section of shared use path to connect from Soapstone back to Reston Parkway. But then in this western portion of Sunrise Valley, between the Reston Metro, the Herndon Monroe Metro, and the Innovation Metro, the original idea was on-road bike lanes. And unfortunately, on-road bike lanes really don't serve many bicyclists. Most bicyclists, only a small percentage, 10% at most of the bicycling or of the public, are comfortable riding on road with vehicles such as on Sunrise Valley. So even the need to change from those on-road bike lanes became apparent because it was not going to be defendable that we would spend millions of dollars and tear up Sunrise Valley and just deliver on-road bike lanes that not enough of the public would benefit from. So the current concept and the current best practices in the United States is something called a cycle track. And a cycle track is it's off-road, it's raised to the level of the sidewalk. It's parallel to the sidewalk, and so that's all a cycle track really is a shared use path. It's parallel to a sidewalk, a separate bicycle pedestrian facility. The limits of this project is from Sunrise Valley, on Sunrise Valley from Carter Way to Edmund Haley Drive. There's also projects on New Dominion Parkway in the town center area and Town Center Parkway. And the reason for these projects are, of course, the economic development that we have in this area. It's probably the most broad, robust economic development in the entire county when you combine these three station areas. So we have the need for high quality walking and biking, and access to our three new metro stations coming. So you're certainly familiar with the area and why we're doing it. The original bicycle master plan had the idea for on-road bike lanes, but as I've said, that is no longer best practices. This graphic here indicates the all ages and abilities riders that we're trying to provide a facility for. So again, those highly confident cyclists would be comfortable in traffic on Sunrise Valley, but me myself would be in the light blue, and certainly families with kids need high quality, safe, and comfortable facilities. That best practices now is based on looking at what the volume of the road is and the speed limit, and although bike lanes are perfectly fine on low speed, low volume roads, as speeds and volume increase, you want to have a painted buffer for a bike lane, or then ultimately move to a shared use path or a separated facility. So all of these roads, Sunrise, New Dominion, and Town Center, have those characteristics. So what are we talking about here? Like I said, it's essentially a shared use path that's parallel to a sidewalk. So It provides a dedicated facility for cyclists that is for all ages and abilities. It really provides a world-class bicycle connection to our world-class economic development and our multi-billion-dollar Silver Line. As importantly, it improves pedestrian safety and comfort because it gives the pedestrians a place to have their own, and we're doing intersection improvements that will add significant safety improvements for both pedestrians and bicyclists at the intersections. The concept here is, again, it's a separated off-road facility, and the idea is to build into the roadway, and I'll be able to detail that in a couple pictures here. The intersections, as I said, have innovative treatments that we have nowhere else in Fairfax County yet. I'm sure when the other board members see the results of this project, this will be a demonstration project and set a high standard for the type of projects that we want to be doing in the future. You can see from the graphic, the lower right corner, there'd be separate crosswalks for bicycles and pedestrians. And then the radiuses, the intersections themselves have special features to protect the pedestrians. As you can see, there's a protected concrete area separating traffic from the corners, and then the upper left picture there has something called a truck pillow, which is intended to allow a truck to have the turning movements it needs, but that the regular cars turning through the intersection would follow the lines and see that concrete and go slow there. Along the corridor, there's also opportunities for other innovative designs, such as what's called a floating bus stop, where, of course, we have Fairfax Connector bus service throughout Reston, and we have to accommodate bus stops and the bicycle facilities. And so the idea there is you run the bicycle facility behind the bus stop, and you have a crosswalk across the bike lane to the bus stop. Now, that picture is not exactly how Sunrise Valley would look. It wouldn't be a bulb out. The curb would be continuous, but the bike, as shown in the picture, the bike facility would run behind the bus stop. So again, I mentioned it, but here's the real beauty of this project. We're working inside the roadway. As you may imagine, or if you know, Sunrise Valley has lots of underground utilities. Of course, all the telecommunications that's in the area, and has a lot of areas have been landscaped, have again existing sidewalks. So we're not looking to widen the road. We're not looking to build outside of the curb line. However, the cross section of Sunrise Valley has really too much valuable public right-of-way dedicated to cars only. So the concept here is to narrow the travel lanes, narrow the medians, and build into the roadway this raised bicycle facility. So we'll essentially add a parallel curb into the roadway, and then have the raised bicycle facility on top of that curb. So this will maintain an outside travel lane for buses. It'll maintain the turn lanes. It'll actually leave the existing curb in place, which leaves the existing drainage in place, and then we actually just tie laterally back into that drainage. And then it also preserves the landscape buffer between the sidewalk and the bike facility in most locations. So from these cross sections, you can see basically what we're talking about. Of course, I'm an engineer, so I see these cross sections all the time. But if you just compare the top to the bottom, the top is Sunrise Valley today. The bottom is the proposal. And as you see, the sidewalk stays in the same place. So today's sidewalk is located where tomorrow's sidewalk would be. But we bring the curb line into the roadway, and we accomplish that by narrowing the excessively wide lanes on the roadway. And then at intersections, we even eliminate the median and take it down to a double yellow. In between intersections, there's still opportunities for just narrowing the median. So that's essentially how it works. The rightmost lane is an 11-foot lane to accommodate buses. The leftmost lane is a 10.5-foot lane, and then the turn lane is an 11-foot lane. We've also run extensive auto turn analysis, as it's called, which is the software that analyzes large vehicles, and typically that's just used, say, at an intersection to analyze the turning movement of an 18-wheeler. We've actually used that same software along the entire 3-mile corridor to analyze the movement of an 18-wheeler moving through the corridor, and is there any overlap? And we found a couple of places where there were areas that there could be conflicts, and we redesigned it to eliminate those conflicts. In the interest of time, I'll wrap up here. Again, this is an engineering drawing of what the intersections would look like. They're called protected intersections. And then basically the same things are proposed for New Dominion. We keep the existing landscape on New Dominion in place, move into the lane, build a cycle track into the lane, and narrow the median on New Dominion. On Town Center Parkway, same idea. Excuse me, we keep the landscaping and the sidewalk in place, narrow the lanes and narrow the medians. And here's another schematic of a protected intersection, a few more protected intersections along Town Center. And again, the idea here is that the costs and the impacts are better in compared to a standard shared use path. So the benefits are better, of course, than just on-road bike lanes. So where are we? We've since this is so new and innovative, we've spent the past couple of years coming up with basically a proof of concept design. So it's almost to the level of a 30% design. The one thing that was unanalyzed was the actual drainage calculations for quantities and things like that. So that's what's going on now. We're wrapping that up. We're also looking at a sidewalk consistency analysis. The original idea was to leave all of the existing sidewalks in place, but there's been some concern about consistencies of frontages throughout the Reston area, so we're analyzing the sidewalks to see if there are some areas that might need some minor improvements to make the sidewalk consistent. We hope to wrap that all up in this summer and forward it to the design process later on with construction, by 2026. So with that, I will stop sharing and take any questions. Oh, the one thing I forgot to mention was polo fields. And I'm sorry. There is the concern with the curve there at Polo Fields. Since we will be rebuilding along that frontage, we will take a look at if there are any opportunities to change the super elevation or do any extra treatments along that curve there at Polo Fields. So that is part of our marching orders for that design.
Okay, we have Michael has a question for you. Go ahead and ask the question.
Hi. This was one particularly in the designation between the curb and gutter and the existing curb and gutter and the track you want to do. There's always a problem because of differentiation between the colors and whether the curb and gutter can be seen at all times, during inclement weather or particularly during slow. And people might have a tendency to blend in with that open pavement that's a track. And I was wondering, one of your pictures showed curb and gutter, which looked almost white. Is there any delineation that's going to be put in between that in the way maybe on curves, like an inside of a curve, to keep the cars from wandering onto the bike track?
Thanks, Mike. That's a great observation. The curb and gutter would be concrete, so it would be the standard to, it would look like the edge of the road. However, you're correct. There would be an asphalt facility behind that. So thank you. That's a great design point, and I will pass that off to the design team to see what the best practices are for that. We certainly we do talk a lot about surface and delineation between pedestrian and bicycle facilities, and often we deal with a border there, but that's the first time someone has made that comment, concern. So thank you. We'll pass that on.
You're muted, Mike.
At all.
Here.
I think particularly on an inside curve where you may have the tendency of people to cut it short, and that where you might have an occasional delineator or something. I know on Lawyers Road, VDOT came back through and put the nice double line separating the bike trail and the traffic lane, and that was a big help. And I see that that's going to try to be done where we can do it elsewhere to make the separation, because they're two different size vehicles.
Okay. Just a quick point of order. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Or am I? Yeah. Okay. We got two laptops going here. Tom, does Tom need to leave anytime soon and we can come back to questions, or I'd like a little direction from Tom here.
Good until 9:25.
Okay, great. All right, well, we'll just continue. I think Rick had his hand up.
Mark Malcolm and then Rick.
Okay, Mark first. All right. Mark, you need to unmute.
Okay, thank you. I greatly appreciate seeing these slides and all the work that's been going for a very long time. The questions that I have are these. One, against the original set of project descriptions, basically to the east of Fairfax County Parkway, the cycle tracks were on both sides of the road. On also with TPP 19014, it was a single cycle track going from Fairfax County Parkway over to Innovation Station. Could you address whether there's one or two cycle tracks on the west side, because the slides you showed, I think, 6 foot wide cycle track, where normally when you have a bidirectional, it's a 10 foot wide in order to allow both directions. So yes. I'm very curious there. That's one of two. Address that one first, then I'll come to the second one.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mark. Very observant. I failed to mention it. Yeah, cycle tracks can be either one-way or two-way facilities. These are proposed to be one-way facilities. So for the entire project length, from almost Reston Parkway to Innovation Station, they are one-way cycle tracks on each side of Sunrise Valley, both the north and the south side. The width is 6 feet, and that's the width that's required for an overtaking cyclist to be able to pass another cyclist.
Thank you very much. And continuing with that, that then brings to the intersection at Fairfax County Parkway, because at the present time, there are 3 pedestrian crosswalks designed with cycle track on both sides that would have an impact to what occurs at that intersection. By the footprint that you showed of what you would do innovatively, that has a real impact to the southwest corner of that intersection and what's there. Is there a potential eminent domain issue with the 2 homes that are at that corner because of that, what you indicated would be the world-class design? Thank you.
Now I'm not muted. I shared my screen again. That is the intersection of Fairfax County Parkway, Sunrise Valley. You can see in the light gray underneath is what today's intersection crosswalks look like, and then the design here of what the improved intersections would look like. It is essentially staying within the right-of-way that I know it's hard to see. Maybe you can see my mouse. This diagonal line here is the right-of-way line, and then running over here. So in concept, it is staying within the right-of-way now. Now, you know, as this moves to final design, or are there need for any temporary construction easements? That is always to be determined. But the concept is to not need to impact the properties there and to fit within the right-of-way that's there.
That's very excellent, and I greatly appreciate it. I couldn't see it well enough the first time you presented it. Thank you. That's all I have.
Rick, do you have a hand up for Chris, or because I note on the chat you'd had another question for our safety officer.
I do. Can you hear me?
Yes.
If I heard you correctly, the time frame is several years out before this takes place, and as Shamli knows all too well, because I've sent her accident descriptions at Sunrise Valley and Hitchcock Drive, and pictures of accidents, the most recent of which was in January of this year. I'm really, really concerned that we're not going to have any changes to that situation for several years, if I heard your completion dates correctly.
Well, as Tom and Steve Welch, Tom Bashadny and Steve Welch, or Steve mentioned his discussions with us, there is an effort underway to look at that curve. So VDOT is committed to review the curve there and see what can be done. It is true that this construction project and any opportunities that come to that curve with this construction project, it is timed to the construction project. So we're certainly looking at what we can do in the short term, in the interim, and then in the ultimate.
Okay, appreciate it. We'll anxiously await the results of today's walkabout.
Are there any further questions for Chris? Oh, Chris, you did such a magnificent presentation, so you cleared up everything for them. All right.
I credit my staff and the engineers working on the project. They make it look easy, and it's not easy.
I know it's not easy. So Chris, make sure you tell them how impressed we were with your presentation. We appreciate it. So we're going to move on to Tom. Yeah, you've unmuted yourself with Fairfax County DOT.
Right, good morning, everyone. I'm going to give you a little update on the Old Courthouse Besley project. I'm going to share my screen, and you could let me know if you can see that. Okay. All right. So this is Old Courthouse Besley. The main purpose of this project is to fix the fairly significant curve that's here, and also to bring the roadway out of the stream valley. So through the middle of the project is the Wolf Trap Creek that goes through here. As any of you may know that live in the area or try and travel through the area, multiple times a year, this area floods and the road becomes impassable. Oftentimes there are need to rescue cars and sometimes the need to rescue people because the water does rise kind of quickly. So the purpose of the project is really to raise the elevation of the roadway, to add pedestrian and bicycle facilities, and to straighten out to an extent the curvature. Now, we're not getting rid of the curvature completely, partly because the curvature does provide a little bit of traffic calming, but it is significantly straighter than what you see today. So on this end here, that would take you to Tyson's if you were going to down this way, and the other end here takes you to Beulah. This is Besley Road right here. And so what we're doing here is we're actually straightening this out. And in addition to putting in the sidewalks in the bike lane, you can kind of see the bike lane on each side here. We're going to be putting in a couple of medians. And the purpose of the median is really to narrow the lane, to slow traffic down. Each of those will have a crosswalk. There's one here, and then there's another one down here. The parallel sidewalk starts here and goes the full length of the project down to here. And then on the south side, it comes from about this area here down to here and then crosses over. There are bike lanes throughout. Because it is a spot improvement project, we know that we have more to do on Old Courthouse Road, but what we're trying to do is address the immediate problem of the flooding, and also to as long as we're doing the work here, provide those bike and pedestrian facilities at the same time. So the current situation is land acquisition is essentially complete. We did need to acquire property from about a dozen properties. That is complete, and tree clearing has started to prepare for the relocation of the Dominion power line. So if you go through there, you'll see some of the tree clearing underway right now. So once the trees are clear, Dominion, Cox, and Verizon will move their lines, and then we will be bidding the construction of this over the winter time, awarding that in May of next year. So the formal construction of the project will start next summer, and the anticipated completion is May of 2025, and it's about a $16 million project all in, $16.5 million project all in. I'm going to stop sharing this, and I'm going to share one other slide for you. Okay, can you see the picture? Okay,
Yeah,
so this
yeah.
is if you were at Besley Road and you were looking towards Beulah, this is what the bridge will look like. And then if you are on the other side, this is Besley Road over here. So if you're on the south side looking across towards Besley, this is what the bridge would look like. You see the wide sidewalk over here. There's also a sidewalk on this side and a bike facility. So let me just slide this way a little bit. There we go. So you can see it's 2 lanes, one in each direction. There is a median at certain locations, and some places there is not. And then on one side you have a shared use path. The other side is a sidewalk. So that's pretty much the update. The project is well underway. It is fully funded, and you will continue to see work now that the utility relocation has started through the rest of this year, and then the actual construction of the project will start next summer. So I'd be happy to take any questions, or if you want to wait for questions, I'm here for about another 25 minutes.
We can take questions at this. I think, let me put my camera on. I think Mike Martin has a question.
Yeah. For designation between the travel lane and the bike lane on road in there, particularly what you all did on Lawyers Road, which added a double marcation line between the two, was fantastic. I could not tell from this one whether you'll be adding a similar definition to keep the vehicle out of the bike lane and the bike lane out of the vehicle ones.
I would have to go back and look at the plans a little more closely on that. But yes, we definitely want to make sure that it's clearly delineated between where the bike lane is and where the travel lane is. So we'll go back and take a look at that. These plans were not detailed enough for me to be able to answer.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Are there further questions? I think, wait a minute. Let's see if there's something in the chat. I'm learning the teams. Nope. Any other questions for Tom on this project? Hey, that's great. All right. Thank you so much for the presentation, Tom. It's good to see this project taking off and impressive slides.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, we're going to move on in the agenda to Officer Harita. Are you?
I am. Good morning. I'm sharing
Morning.
the slide. Please let me know if you can see the slide.
Yes, we can see the slide. Thank you.
Okay, so good morning. Again, I'm Officer Harita with the Reston District Police Station. I'm your Community Liaison Officer. And today I'm going to be speaking on 2 of the main traffic safety focuses that we've had as of late. Of course, speeding is always a community concern, And then we have a focus on distracted driving awareness, which I'll explain a little bit more of. First of all, if you want to take note on, excuse me, there we go. If you want to take note on the first page here, you'll see the electronic sign. That's what I'm referring to when I say electronic signboard or portable communications messaging system. They're the large signs that we can change the message for that you might see on the major roadways. So this one says phones down Virginia. We're programming it for that distracted driving campaign. All right, so the first concern I wanted to speak about, and the first traffic safety concern that has a major impact on how traffic is affected in our community is distracted driving, and the focus is on reducing distracted driving. I do follow the traffic safety schedule of NISTA, which is the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. April is distracted driving month, but when we start looking at crashes, the reason why people are having crashes and accidents, often it does point to distracted driving, whether the driver admits it or not. All right, what is distracted driving? It's visual, manual, and cognitive distractions. Visual meaning your sight is not on the roadway. Manual, your hands are off the steering wheel or otherwise occupied, maybe holding that phone. And cognitive, mentally, or I'd consider also emotionally distracted from the primary task of driving. That includes reading emails and texts. Discussing the Code of Virginia, 46-818.2 is, I don't want to say new because it's been in effect since January 1st, of 2021. What we're doing since a year has passed is we're continuing trying to educate people within Virginia that this is a primary offense. The hands-free code is a primary offense. You cannot have a portable communication messaging device, a phone, a tablet, even a computer in your hand while driving. It is a primary violation. Us as law enforcement officers can stop you for that violation, and it comes with fees and fines that are set by the court. About half of the states now are hands-free states, meaning you can't have that communication device in your hand. But that begs the question, what other actions are we looking at when we're thinking about distracted driving? It's not just having that phone in your hand and knowing that you might be distracted by reading a text, an email, or sending a text or an email, or even watching TV, because we have had people do that. It's not uncommon. We're looking at actions that might point to distracted driving, but in and of themselves are violations, such as following too close. When you see those bumper to bumper cars, which is another problem, it's how we see the multi-car pileups in case someone in the back is not paying attention. Improper lane change, I'm sure we've all seen that, the jerking over the white line or the double yellow line, or trying to recorrect or overcorrect. The improper use of earphones, which is having both headphones or earphones in your ear while driving, is a violation. You may have one, but not both. And failing to give proper signal, for example, that changing lanes without properly looking or without thinking that you might need to signal to other drivers that you are going to make that lane change. These are all other driving actions that point to the fact that you might be distracted, but are in and of themselves violations. Why is this a focus? This slide is very important. It's simple, but very important because it describes just what we are trying to avoid. Obviously, fatalities, obviously, injuries, property damage and monetary costs to your vehicle and to other vehicles. The insurance premiums go up, and property is often destroyed, whether it's VDOT property, we see the guardrails, or whether it's road signs. And then behavior mirroring, because we need to all be good examples to new drivers and to other drivers on the roadway. We will mirror each other's behavior, and through peer pressure being having the good driving behavior, We need to mirror that and set an example for other drivers, and especially for our youth and new drivers who are just coming out into the roadway and may have and be used to even more electronic communication devices than we do. All right, in conjunction with Distracted Driving Awareness Month, I am running my Just Drive campaign. You might see that portable messaging communication system out on the major roadways for high visibility, including Fairfax County Parkway and Reston Parkway. On this slide here, you'll see some of the phrases that we all might have heard ourselves saying. Just a quick check, or should have checked that lane. Well, I guess I was kind of close, but it comes down to, whoa, that was close. And my message here is let's avoid those close calls. Hopefully they're only close calls, and recognize the close calls and change the behavior. Put the phone down, put the text down, focus on the primary task of driving. So you might see this graphic around Reston, as well as our changing signboards, reminding drivers that it is a hands-free state. Also, part of the Distracted Driving campaign is it's a balance of education and enforcement. We will have officers out looking for those various violations that are dangerous, and I provided educational material to them, to the public, whether they choose to use their discretion in a warning, or if someone receives a citation, they may still provide them with the educational materials for the hands-free laws in Virginia. I've also provided our officers at our station with reminders of the improper driving behaviors and of the consequences of improper driving behavior, so that in their regular patrols and in their directed patrols, they can look for these violations. All right, focus on speeding. Of course, our focus for enforcement purposes is major throughways, neighborhoods and communities, and business parks, excuse me. What do I mean by the major throughways? We're talking about Route 7, Fairfax County Parkway, Reston Parkway even, and Centerville Road. And as has been being discussed is the construction that's going on in the area. So we're tying in distracted driving with that. And of course, speeding around construction areas, use of phone in construction areas, which is an increased violation and fine set by the court. Neighborhoods and communities, we're addressing, for example, Fox Mill Road and Georgetown Pike. And then business parks, in and around business parks. Business parks themselves might be private property, such as Hunters Woods and Fox Mill Shopping Center, North Point. But we also have the roads around them when we have a lot of egress and a lot of cars and pedestrian traffic. So each one of these types of roadways has to be addressed differently when it comes to speeding. So you will see our tactics change, whether it's moving radar, whether we have the help of our motor officers, or whether we use the signage for private property, such as the yellow slow down signs, which you might have seen. My point is each one of these different types of roadways has to be addressed accordingly so that it's safe for our officers and also safe for the public if we're doing enforcement. One of those examples is Georgetown Pike. It is a very challenging place to do active enforcement. We attack the speeding issues and the traffic violations in different ways. Whether it's through use of speed signs, speed boards. I believe we just got a new portable speed sign, which will be great. So look for that out, and that will be mounted on signage. So it will help us alert the public in areas of more narrow roadways, but still be higher visibility. Again, I put this slide up again because we're looking at the focus and the impact that these issues are causing: fatalities, injuries, property damage, monetary costs, and whether good or bad behavior mirroring. Again, simple slide, but a lot of meaning behind it. As a community, what can we do? As a police department, we're working on the education and enforcement and outreach piece of it. As a community, what can you do? You can adjust your driving behavior to be within the realm of safe driving. Again, I'll stress that we need to focus on the youth and new drivers And this will set a good example. If you do have youth or new drivers in your family, be that good example for them. I always say belt up, put the phone down. All right, 2 more points, and I did add 1 more slide really quickly after Mr. Welch's presentation mentioning McNair Elementary School. But I want to let everybody know that we have an upcoming Community Advisory Committee, or CAC. Here's the flyer for that. It's Wednesday, April 27th at 7 p.m. in person at the Reston District Police Station, North County Government Center, Community Room. Please join us. We are looking for new members. Stop in. All are welcome. No RSVPs needed. Bring your questions. Come learn more about your public safety representatives. Hear from our special guests. Bring your questions or concerns. We will have those public safety representatives there. And it's good to meet your neighbors and community. And give your input also to what you want to see of your public safety organization. Again, that is April 27th at 7 p.m. It's a Wednesday. And really quick, the new slide I added to address the new information I heard about the May 9th construction at McNair Elementary School. I'm happy to hear that crosswalk is being moved up for the safety. I've been working with the administration of that school. McNair in particular, again, with the addition of the McNair 1 or the north side, has had its own traffic challenges, especially with the children there and learning the traffic laws. In order to do that, I've sponsored in order to help educate the children and the adults, I've sponsored a student poster contest. So it brings each child into learning some of the traffic laws, into creating something around traffic safety that'll be in their heads and be in the heads of their classmate as well. So on the bottom left, you'll just see the flyer or the brochure for the student poster contest at McNair. And then in the upper right, you'll see the traffic safety skills for life, which had been custom made for some of the issues that we're seeing around McNair School. And this one is tailored to adults to not only learn the laws, but to understand how it might impact the safety of their students. So thank you for listening. Again, I'm the Reston Liaison Officer. My information is there. If you forget that information or don't have it, just dial the Reston station 24/7 and ask for your Community Liaison Officer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Excuse me. Thank you for that presentation. Excellent presentation. Are there any questions for Officer Harita? Great job.
I don't see any questions. I did have somebody message me that just said that news broke this week that 2021 road deaths in Virginia are up 14% from 2020. So we know that this is a really critical area. So thank you very much, Officer Harita, for stepping up and initiating all these programs to keep our community safe.
Absolutely.
Okay, with that, we are going to move now to the presentation by John Mooney with the, I forgot what RCP is. That Reston Comprehensive?
Reston Comprehensive Plan.
That's what I thought, task force. Thank you. I've been looking forward to this presentation, John.
Great. Good morning, everyone. So I have 5 main parts to this, and I'm going to try to do it in 10 minutes or so. Tell you what the task force chapter on transportation is and isn't. Secondly, very briefly, how it was composed, because that will affect how you look upon it. Thirdly, how it is structured. And fourthly, some especially difficult issues we struggled with as we worked on it. So this is a report of the Reston Comprehensive Plan's interim draft of the transportation chapter. The interim draft is the operative word. We are going to get some detailed feedback on that draft from Fairfax County DOT at the end of the month, and that will no doubt recommend some changes in the current draft. So this is the best the task force has been able to do prior to the detailed feedback from Fairfax County DOT. How is it composed? So the Transportation Committee of the task force included any member of the full task force who wanted to participate, which turned out to be 12. So it was a very well representative group of members of the task force. We had 12 meetings between November of 2020 and April 21, and then transportation issue was dealt with in the whole task force for several meetings. We tried to make decisions by consensus, but a number of issues were decided by votes, some of which were narrow votes. I want to comment right at the outset that we had outstanding collaboration with our Fairfax County DOT contact team, especially John King and Mike Garcia throughout the process. So the feedback that they're going to give us is not the first time we've talked to them. We've worked very openly and honestly and diligently about issues throughout the process. So then how is this chapter structured? By way of background, because of the imminent arrival of the Silver Line, the current plan, which was 2014-2015, was especially focused on phase 1, the TSAs. And so phase 2, the non-TSA areas, received much less attention. And more importantly, those two parts were never really adequately integrated in the final plan. So that current plan has no real transportation chapter, but only scattered transportation elements, mostly focused in the TSAs. So to achieve a better integration of the transportation issues of the TSAs and non-TSAs, because they do affect each other, those two types of areas really affect each other. The current comp plan tried to gather all the scattered elements from the 2014-15 plan into one chapter, organized not by geographical areas in Reston, but by a set of overarching transportation principles and then 4 major headings. So the transportation principles, there are a number of them, but the most important ones focused on, first of all, multimodal transportation. That is, trying to reduce the reliance on single occupancy vehicles, which causes all sorts of, not only all sorts of congestion, but also forces the widening of roads, which can really affect what the community looks like. And it requires, when you widen roads, you affect the bordering neighbors, and I'll get into that at the end. So we ended up trying not to do more multimodal transportation, that is, facilitating a change to pedestrian, bicycle, transit use. We tried to do it not by coercion, but by the attraction of efficient and reliable alternative modes of transportation. The second big principle was to be always aware of the mutual influence of land use planning on one hand and transportation planning on the other. Each conditions the other. And so we tried to do that throughout the planning process. A third big principle was connectivity, trying to connect, make sure that we had good connectivity, not just between Reston's geographical areas, but between the various Reston multimodal transportation means, so that, for example, people could walk to or bike to Metro so that they didn't have to drive. They could use Metro, but they could walk to it or take bus transit to it, or they could take their bikes to Metro. So connectivity was a big thing. And the final big principle was equity, making sure that not as some sort of a separate theoretical question, but as a dimension interwoven into all of the transportation elements, that we make sure that all parts of Reston, especially those with lower income families who may not have the autos they need to get around, that everybody has an equitable chance at good transportation in Reston. So those were the principles. Then we looked at 4 major areas, the facilities. So The plan has lists both in the text and in tables of proposed improvements in roadways, bikeways, pedestrian paths, and sidewalks. Secondly, we looked at transit, both metro rail and buses, and we set out what we thought should be performance standards, especially for the buses. Next, we talked about how you manage these transportation elements. So we discussed what should be the metrics for designing these facilities and services and for monitoring how successfully they're operating. And so that we can have a feedback loop and change as experience tells us we must. The second big management point was traffic demand management. So that is trying to, again, promote multimodality in our transportation so that we're not choked by auto congestion. And we do that by transit-oriented design, or TOD as it's called, near metro rail stations, where hopefully you get more people traveling by metro rail and perhaps even owning fewer personal vehicles. You can also do traffic demand management by parking policies. And so that was a dimension. And finally, and a new thing is we looked at placemaking. Placemaking is the ensuring that both travel paths and travel destinations are clearly and beautifully designed so that travelers, whether they go by foot, bike, bus, or car, are attracted to use Reston's multimodal transportation facilities. So one of the things also discussed in the context of placemaking was a good a signage system so that people know how to access destinations and different travel paths and different modes of travel. And then finally, the fourth big topic that I want to discuss with you today is what are the issues we especially struggled with? And I would say that underlying much of our discussion was trying to achieve the proper balance between autos and non-autos. So there were some a few who advocated kind of a revolution against autos. But we chose an evolutionary path, as I said, by attraction rather than coercion. Some criticized that as protecting the status quo too much. So that was one of the struggles. And again, we had some divided votes on some of these things. The other thing we struggled with was the road widenings. Again, road widenings are caused by, they're necessitated by development and the associated traveling with development. And so unless we handle development well, unless we get a true multimodal transportation system installed, there will be a constant pressure to widen roads. And especially notable is the proposed widening of Fairfax County Parkway to 6 lanes. Actually, it's not just the Fairfax County Parkway, it's the whole Parkway corridor from the intersection of Fairfax County Parkway up at Route 7 in the northwest part of the county, down to the end of the Franconia Springfield Parkway toward the southeast portion of the county. And that widening, which is not scheduled to hit Reston until about 2038, would widen the roads and would affect adjacent property, and most notably in polo fields. So this is not something new, and it's not simply the intersection at Sunrise Valley Drive and Fairfax County Parkway, which has been a frequently mentioned concern by the polo fields community. It's really, the intersection is really secondary to the widening to 6 lanes. And this is nothing new. It was in the 2014-15 plan. It was in Reston Network Analysis final report in 2018. And most notably and definitively, in the final report of the Fairfax and Franconia Springfield Parkway Alternatives Analysis and Long-Term Planning Study, which was completed in the fall of last year. So we're still dialoguing with Fairfax County DOT and with the Polo Fields community to see how we should reflect in our comprehensive plan how to deal with that possibility of that widening at that point, which would significantly affect some of the properties in the Polo Fields community. So those are the main struggles we dealt with. So I'll stop there and see if there are any questions.
Yes, thank you, John. Are there any questions for John? Excuse my allergy. John, is there a website that we can go to see the work of this task force or committee?
Yes, it's posted on the website dedicated to the web page, I guess you call it, on Fairfax County's website to the Reston Comprehensive Plan Task Force. And there you will, I believe that is true, Walter, that the full interim draft of the comprehensive plan can be accessed there.
Right, that's right. And I'll put it in the chat, but Catherine, if it's okay with you, just real quick, I just want to give a shout out to John and to the transportation subgroup. This really was a tremendous effort to pull all this together, and to, in Reston, we're kind of a rowdy group, different ideas on what should happen. So John did such a wonderful job keeping a level head and working through all those issues. And I do look forward to over the next few months, the task force wrapping up its work and then getting feedback on from the broader community on changes to the comprehensive plan. So happy to also have this come back later as well. And it looks like Lisa just put the link in the chat. So thank you, Lisa.
Good, thank you. Are there any further questions for John? Do we know, Walter, what the time frame is for this to go out to the public for further comment?
Yeah, the task force will be wrapping up. At this point, I'm saying late May. We're hoping late May, early June at the latest. And then we'll have the rest of the summer for public engagement, public comment, meetings. Basically, whoever I am looking forward to a meeting specifically with Polo Fields, community meeting there. And then in the fall, we're looking at a planning commission public hearing, and then to the Board of Supervisors public hearing by the end of the year.
And just to mention that Walter has not been idle up to now. We've reached out to certain key community groups like the Chamber of Commerce and so forth. So there have been not the final community outreach, but there have been some interim meetings, and we've gotten some helpful feedback from a number of interested groups already. So.
Okay, and what I'm going to encourage anyone that's attending today's meeting to go out to your neighborhood and your groups. This is the time for us as citizens to pay attention in the planning phases, so that we don't have, when the final product comes out, like we were saying in the beginning of the meeting, some of you may not have joined us yet, where we were talking about the Route 7 widening report last night and the comments of the community. This is not unusual. They come very late in the process, maybe because they didn't live in the neighborhood. But for those of us who are already live here and are interested in things, this is the opportunity to join and get our and have an influence over the final product. So I can say, because I've been doing transportation and environmental and tree issues in Reston and in this county for at least 30 years. It's and I'm married to a transportation engineer, so I know how development happens over a long period of time, especially if you have a recession and things slow down and then you pick the project back up again. We really need to be engaged from the very beginning. We owe it to our community to be engaged. So all of us should go home to our neighbors and have them pay attention to this. It's a huge undertaking. Thank you, John. I, of all people, understand what you went through and will continue to go through. So you can look to us for our
Yeah,
interest.
I have to say the Transportation Committee was really remarkable. They faithfully met with very few people missing. They met every 2 weeks, you know, for that long period, 12 meetings, as I said.
Yeah.
And they were 2-hour meetings and with a lot of reading in between. So the committee was great, and the task force has been very diligent. These are not easy issues, so we would be numb-headed if we didn't have disagreements.
That's true. That's true. That's the time to iron it out. Well, thank you, John. At this point, I'm going to open up. This was our last planned presentation. I'm going to open it up to the entire group for any, not just questions of John, but any questions for Walter. Anything else that someone wants to present this morning? Because it's only 9:30. Hey, I'm really proud of us. We just went through this huge group of presentations. I think I see a hand up.
Frances has her hand up.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Sure can. Good morning.
Hey, first of all, thanks to everybody. This has been a really informative meeting and I really appreciate it. Quick question. My name is Renate Dancis. I work at the Dulles Area Transportation Association, and I get to talk to community members and all kinds of businesses about all the exciting ways to get in and around Reston and through and the rather large area of Hunter Mill. One of the questions I get a lot, and this is both from residents, from realtors, from employers who are eager to entice employees to work for them and to come into the office occasionally. I get a lot of questions about bike share. You know, we heard that there might be a bike share station here. We heard that there might be, you know, bike share station there. And so I guess a couple of, will there be updates and things like that? And I know that the county, and some of this is because the county has done such an incredible job expanding bike share in this area. So first of all, I just want to say thank you to the county for that, and particularly to Fairfax County DOT, because the expansion has made an amazing, amazing network, and it is a huge plus for businesses and residents and everyone. So after my kudos, let me actually get to my question, which is one, where is a good spot to find out where the, possibilities and updates on Capital Bike Share, future stations and expansion? And who is the, is there a particular point person at the county who I can, who is in charge of answering those questions?
Thanks, Ronit. I'll take this. Good to see you again. This is Chris Wells. My staff in our active transportation group, we manage the Capital Bike Share on behalf of Fairfax County. So the particular staff person, his name is David Loss, L-O-S-S, David Loss. Okay. He's my shared micromobility and outreach staff. Okay. Our current plans are to add Capital Bike Share to the Reston station, both the north and the south side. We're in the process of procuring the equipment to do that. However, at the moment, we don't have any definitive plans west of there. We have had some inquiries from some businesses in the innovation area in particular that we're looking to maybe sponsor a station. And then the town of Herndon, within the town, has done some preliminary work on determining what their options are to join Capital Bike Share with us. So the challenge is you have to have a network. So we can't just add a station at Herndon Monroe or add a station at Innovation, because you can't get anywhere. You have to ride in a circle and come back to the station. So we were able to find funding to do the 2 new stations at the Reston station. That was not part of our most recent Reston expansion, but to the funding for, like, say 5 or 7 stations around Innovation, say, well, that would be as a frame of reference. The stations at the metro stations need to be large, so they need to be 19 dock stations, because we know that it's a destination. So those 2 19 dock stations at the Reston station, those cost $125,000. So to do a network out in the Innovation area, say a 19 dock station at the station and say 5 satellites or 4 satellites, now you're talking more like $300,000-400,000. So we don't have the funding at the moment for that, but we certainly know that the need is there, and the desire to have the network. And of course, the network can't be in isolation either. So as Herndon starts talking about their plans, which we would, Herndon is part of Fairfax County, so we would jointly work on their needs with us. As the network moves west, then we'll be able to have opportunities to add capacity on our side of the Herndon station and at the Innovation station, but we don't have plans west of Reston yet.
Okay. And I know that as we come closer to the completion of the Silver Line and, otherwise known as the opening of the Phase 2 stations, that these questions will come more and more frequently. May I tell them that if they are interested, they should absolutely send a note to that effect? Is that, I don't mean
Yes.
I do not mean to fill up your inbox.
No, of course, the way the Tysons,
Yes.
Capital Bike Share started was with corporate sponsorships from the businesses. So we have a business model that corporations can pay for the stations and have them on their property or adjacent to their property. So if that is an interest of companies in that area, we absolutely would want to hear from them, because that saves the public sector from needing to fund stations. So thank you.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And again, I'm just going to share anecdotes that as I talk with employers and with businesses who are, the bike amenities in and around Reston and throughout the area are a plus, and they are excited to know that it's there, that it is, we are currently, I'm actually about to have a meeting in an hour with an employer. We are looking to sort of do a pre-bike to work day ride in and around Reston using, the Reston station using those cabbie bikes, and they are really just thrilled to do that. So this is just such a plus, and I cannot, I just wanted to say this is a jewel and a gem, and congratulations to everybody who's made it possible. Thank you so much.
Okay, are there any other comments? Or Walter, did you have some words of wisdom for us? Also any meetings that might come up between now and July 27th. So do we have don't we have a bike event in May?
Yes, on May 14th.
Yes, we do have the Tour de Hunter Mill, the 2nd annual. This year we'll be starting in the town of Vienna, and the route will start there and end there as well. And looking forward to that. We will have additional meetings probably before the next TAC meeting on the comprehensive plan updates. We're just getting those scheduled in terms of community outreach meetings. We encourage everybody to watch the website that Lisa put up in the chat earlier, and we'll be making sure the word gets out there. And Catherine, great meeting. This was really informative, a lot of good information, some good exchange, and I just want to thank you and everybody for all the great work that's going on transportation these days. So I very much appreciate it.
Well, it is an exciting time for transportation. certainly during COVID, I think there was an opportunity for some traffic work to be done where there weren't as many people on the road. Not so much now. The people are really back on the roads again. But this is springtime, which means it's usually when a lot of potholes, et cetera, are worked on. We have not had a speaker, although we get a lot of comments about potholes. We haven't had a speaker on that for a while. Is that something that we should be addressing, any kind of spot improvement programs at our next meeting in July? Just an idea.
Normally, we could work on that, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I usually go around fixing potholes. I can do a video. No, I'm just.
Yeah, we could all do a video of what our, I had my van aligned recently, so we can all speak to potholes in the county.
We can definitely have some take a look at that and the VDOT reporting procedure for some issues. Last night at the Transportation Advisory Council meeting or committee meeting, we had a whole discussion on lighting and how that reporting is. So maybe we can bring that forward here as well.
Okay, and include lighting. People in Reston love to talk about lighting, so as you know, we'll let Walter do that presentation. It makes you popular to talk about lighting in Reston. Keep giggling there, Chris. Anything else we need to bring up? Well, I think that I'm going to pat all of us on the back. I think we've done a great job with these virtual meetings over the last 2 years. I want to tell your staff how much I appreciate that. Since I work for the county, I understand how introducing this as a new technology has been interesting for the public. I think it's broadened our horizons. I think it's increased our opportunity for participation, which I think is great. Are we going to be moving towards hybrid meetings in the near future, or are we going to continue, or will our July meeting be just on Zoom or Teams or whatever we use?
We are looking at doing the hybrid. I think our staff in the county is trying to set up. Right now, the audio quality is not good enough in the hybrid in our community rooms, and that's the issue. So we're trying to work on that. As soon as that gets managed, we certainly can do hybrid meetings. So that's fine. I would like to give Howard Springsteen from the town of Vienna an opportunity to speak because we had a lot of Reston items on the agenda this time. So if Howard has anything that he needs to add from the town, that would be great.
No, I thought it was a great meeting, and you got done before 10 o'clock. Vienna, we are just going like gangbusters with the Maud Robinson Funds doing sidewalks. For every 5-6 people want sidewalks, 1 or 2 people said it's over my dead body, which we're not going to arrange. But we're getting a lot of sidewalks done. So, but thank you very much, Emily. I'm happy I was able to get Teams on my town laptop, which made me very happy. And I like the fact I can sit here and and do this. So thank you very much.
Always good to see you, Howard.
Thank you.
And you're hosting the bikes, right?
Yes. Well, I thought that I was about to jump in, but yes, we kind of dropped the ball last year for the police, but I can assure you we're going to be much more enthusiastically supporting it this year.
Okay. Terrific, Howard. Good to see you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Just to amend my comment, or not to amend, but to add on to my comment about the hybrid meetings, I'm not necessarily even recommending that we move to it quickly, because it really does increase participation. And I know the community room has terrible audio. We have, at the Office of Elections, we have been struggling with when you move into a hybrid opportunity. There is a struggle that not everyone, especially with the audio, not everyone can be heard or seen in that aspect. So I'm not pushing for the July to go that direction. I was just wanted an update on how we were moving along. Okay. Well, that being said, our next meeting is still July 27th, I believe. And I'm assuming we're going to see your smiling faces on Teams, because I think this worked well. Other than that, please go out there and support the different projects that we have. And I look forward to seeing you out there in the community now that we don't have to wear masks all the time. Okay, see you in July.
Thank you, Catherine.